Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of the Gamut Network. I mean, look at how this guest that we have today, Sara, how she lights up the screen. And really, not only does she do that, but she uses her persona, her everything to make this world a more interesting and more exciting place. And that's why I'm so excited to have her on the show. Sara, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
We're very excited to have you. So I love to always start with just sharing with everybody a little bit about your personal story, your disability, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Sure. So I'm 27 years old from Jacksonville, Florida. I was born with arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. I won't make anybody spell it, so no worries there.
Is there like an acronym for that? Do they call it?
There is AMC, like the movie theater. AMC.
Let's hope AMC exists anyway.
It does. Just don't accidentally Google the movie theater and you'll be good. But anyway, so my disability, it's a full physical disability, affects all four of my limbs. So it's muscle and joint contractures and things like that. So I've been in a wheelchair since the age of 4, and just 4 because then I had to go to kindergarten and I couldn't be carried anymore. So that's why I was in a wheelchair. But basically, I am currently working. I work full-time as a healthcare recruiter. I do some social media for a national medical company on the side. And then I run my own business called Real Life Connections. I started Real Life Connections in 2018, and it's an empowerment movement where I encourage people to, 1, become fearless, 2, to stay motivated, and 3, to always push for more. So I'm on a mission to bridge the gap between those in and out of the disability community so that we can become one. Because it's so important to recognize all of our differences and all that we can do. It's just a matter of being included in everything. So inclusion is something that's so important for me and kind of what I do in my daily life. And then I'm currently, I'm a pageant girl. So I'm currently competing for Miss Florida USA. I'm one of the first in a wheelchair to ever put myself in that position. And so I'm currently Miss Duval County USA, and I compete for Miss Florida in April. So.
That is so exciting. I mean, I have a million questions. So let's just start with the AMC because I'm personally curious about it. So it affects your arms and legs.
Correct.
Do you have mobility in terms of like using, writing or typing or things like that?
Sure, yeah. So I can use my hands and I have full feeling everywhere. So everything works. It's just normally stiff or kind of already pre-bent. So I can write with my hands and do a lot of things with my hands, but it has to be lap level. So I just can't raise my hands in the air. Mm-hmm. But I do use my mouth for everything. So I type with my mouth. Here's my mouth stick.
Oh, I love it. That's what I was hoping for, to like really see how it happens. So you use that to type.
Correct.
Keys. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And so I type on the keyboard. For my job, they actually gave me a touchscreen tablet. So I use a Microsoft tablet. So that way I don't have to navigate with like a mouse pad since I can't really use the mouse pad. So I use my stick on the screen too. So, but I use my mouth for everything. I paint and I draw, but I can also draw with my hands. So I call myself ambidextrous, but it's because I use hands and mouth instead of left hand and right hand.
I love that. I think we need a new word for that.
I know.
Like mouthy dexterous or
exactly.
Something like that. I love that. So, and do you use the stick for phone also?
Yeah. So on my phone, I use the stick. And if I don't have the stick, I use my nose or my lip.
It's amazing. And did you learn how to do, I guess, at 27, probably, in high schools when you started using electronics?
So I actually started using electronics in elementary school because I couldn't keep up on some assignments because a lot of people would write faster than I could write because I was just learning how to write at that point and teaching myself. So I had a couple typing devices when I was younger, but it ended up that I just wrote much faster than I could type when I was little. So writing was my go-to. Now I type really fast, but once you learn the keys, of course, it's easier.
Absolutely. And talk to me a little bit about what school age was like. Was there acceptance when you grew up? How did
I grew up in Pennsylvania. So I'm not a true Floridian, but I've been here long enough, I guess, to count it as that. But school life was actually, it was pretty normal. I know I hate to say that because I know, there's a lot of bullying and things like that go on, but I was a very don't yell at me, don't bully me kind of person. I probably was the bully. I know that sounds so bad. But I know I remember in third grade, I got spit on once and he spit on my wheelchair and then I spit back on him and the teacher didn't say anything. And that was the end of bullying for me because I was like,
I love it.
why would you spit on me? But other than that, I was in all classes, honors classes. I took advanced placement classes in high school. And then I was in so many clubs. I mean, I don't think I ever left school. I loved school. It was one of my most favorite times of life. So didn't really have anything, any differences there. And then I went off to college, which is how I got to Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a graduate of the University of North Florida. I have a degree in healthcare administration. So I was there for 4 years.
I mean, you are really a force to be reckoned with. I love that. It's so refreshing to hear that you love school. And you really, it sounds like you took advantage of everything. And that's really, what I definitely want to underline, that you did it all and there was no stopping you. So let's dive in a little bit to Real Life Connections, because I love everything that you just said, and you are a motivational speaker. So clearly, you're very, very good at that. What do you think, the word inclusion, do you think we're finally getting to the place that people with disabilities it's understood that they're a part of that word? Like I struggled sometimes, at least when I was starting Runway of Dreams, brands understanding that people with disabilities were a minority and they are a part of diversity and inclusion, because for some reason it definitely was like a over here type of demographic. But I'm curious, from your work, are you seeing more of people understanding that inclusion includes all of the above?
Right. So good question. And I definitely, I have a different point of view because I've been working in it for so long. There's a difference between the word inclusion and accessible. And it's been a battle for years where in my community specifically, there's this fight and you go back and forth because they say, well, it's accessible. And accessible is great. That means I can get to it, but it's not inclusive because I can't use it. So becoming and figuring out kind of what that difference in definition is. And there's a lot of people that don't know that there's a difference in definition. They kind of use the words interchangeably, but they're so different. So I'm working on a playground project, just to give you an example. And we have so many playgrounds here that people say, oh, they're ADA accessible. Great. So if I'm a 5-year-old and I want to get to my ADA accessible playground, I can get to it, but I still have to watch my friends play because I can't use it. So now the goal is, can we build something that's inclusive? So instead of just watching, I can actually join and play with my friends at the same time. And so there's definitely that unknowing of your definition of accessible and relearning it as a definition of inclusion, because it's getting there slowly, but it's going to take a lot more people stepping out and saying, no, this isn't actually inclusion. This isn't what the definition is. This is what it is. And let's figure out how we can change it so that more people can be involved in the same activity.
And I can relate to that so clearly, because even in the beginning of really working with the fashion industry, many times I would hear back from the brands and they say, oh, but we have somebody in a wheelchair in our ad campaign, or we have representation of somebody that has Down syndrome in our last show, but they had no clothes in their stores that actually worked for this population. So that's wonderful and amazing. Definitely not downplaying that from a public eye perspective, that they were being inclusive.
Right.
But they really weren't, because they couldn't shop in the stores. There was no product or even able to navigate the store. That's one of my favorite things is, yes, it's awesome that there's handicap accessible dressing rooms, but when's the last time you saw somebody with a disability in the dressing room? Because A, they probably couldn't navigate the store to get there, and B, there's no product for them.
Correct.
So I think that we're very much speaking the same language as your example of the playground, because it's exactly the same thing. And yes, we do have a lot to go, but I think certainly, Real Life Connections is helping to spread that narrative.
Right. Absolutely.
And tell us a little bit about, I know that you have a podcast. Tell us about that and where people can go to listen to it.
Sure. So Real Life Connections is the YouTube handle. So it's all one word, Real Life Connections. And it currently houses both videos of myself doing things that I do daily so that I can break that stigma of somebody always asks, do you sleep in your wheelchair? No, I don't sleep in my wheelchair. I sleep in a bed. So I made a video to show you how I sleep in my bed. So it's just a way to be like, no, like this is life and this is what life looks like for me. And it actually looks pretty similar to your life. So it houses videos like that. And then it also houses interviews. So I think we're approaching our 15th interview. And so I've currently reached out and have interviewed quite a number of individuals. All of them have a disability and they share basically their story. So what their disability is, how they stay motivated each and every day, and what they're doing in their community to continue spreading disability awareness. So we even have a few from Europe on my podcast right now. So we've technically gone global, I guess we can call it.
Definitely. You are global, my friend. You are global.
But yeah, so on YouTube, and then we have an Instagram too.
Amazing. And you do have a product that I think that you are working on the next collection of a t-shirt that is part of the brand. When do you think that will be out so we can share it with all of our
viewers? I probably will do another t-shirt right at the end of the year, beginning of the year. So it'll probably fall middle of December to January. The last t-shirt we did was my different campaign, which I'm actually wrapping up tomorrow. So the whole month of October, I did one each day of how I was different, because the word normal is different by definition to you than it is to me. So there is nothing normal and we're all different.
I love that. I feel like I want to quote that. As Oprah would say, what does she say? That's a tweetable moment. I think that was a tweetable moment.
Absolutely. So our shirts say #different period. And then they say underneath it, the new normal. And it has my little wheelchair logo on it. So I'll come up with another t-shirt, hopefully for December into January. But that was just the last one we did. So
perfect. All right. You'll let us know when it launches so we can
absolutely
help promote it. Before we go, I always like to ask all my guests one final question, and that's about the power of creating a vision board, whether that is a physical board like I have next to me or something that you hold in your head and your heart. If we got to peek onto Sara's vision board, what would we see?
So you would see a lot of different countries and locations, because my goal is to be a traveling public speaker. So I'd love to be able to travel the world and share the message of inclusion. You would see a little picture of a book, because I plan to write my first book in the next 2 years. And there's always a picture of a crown, because regardless of whether you hold a title or not, wearing that crown just gives you that sense of royalty and power and continued empowerment to be a role model for generations to come.
I love that. By the way, I think you should say that. And do they still do kind of speeches when you are in your pageant?
They do ask questions.
Beautiful. I hope they ask a question like that, because it was perfect. And you would win. If I was a judge, you'd win. And I also definitely don't want to forget to really magnify that it's not a pageant for people with disabilities. You are in the typical pageant and happen to have a disability, which is really kudos to you, and kudos to where we're going, hopefully, in this world, that it's really being inclusive and that you can be a part of a typical pageant.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure.
So when is that competition? When do we get to
So it'll be April 15th through 18th, 2021. So next year.
Amazing. All right. Well, you let us know, and good luck. And it was so wonderful to meet you. Keep doing you, because you are beyond magnificent, and a true pioneer and a powerhouse at 27 years old is beyond not what I was doing at 27. I can guarantee that. So amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
If you would like to be on the Gamut Network, please email us at talent@gamutmanagement.com to tell us why you'd be a great guest. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Gamut Network, as well as follow us on social media at Gamut Management. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.